Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats our boat. So today I'm going to be reviewing Matlock Season 1, Episode 14. So before I get into the review, I just want to say thank you to everybody who likes my videos, subscribes to my channel, leaves me comments. Thank you so much for doing that. If you have any questions or comments about the episode or about my review, you can definitely leave them below. I read all my comments. So getting into this episode, there was some things that happened in Maddie's personal life, her sister coming to town, and then there's some things that go on with the case. So I'm going to go over how it started because I always thought that was interesting. So Edwin is describing how he thinks everything went down with Shay and Julian kind of hiding the documents from, well, Brexa. But you don't know it's what Edwin thinks. So when you first see the beginning of the show, you're like, wow, is this really what happened? And then you hear Maddie talk afterwards, like, why do you guys always have to hide in a garage? Parking garage is like a meeting place, just like they do in the movies. But it was so well done because they showed the two characters, Shay and Julian, kind of communicating about getting the documents from the document room. And so I liked that. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to find out it really was Shay and Julian. So we don't know. That's just Edwin, telling Maddie what he thinks happened. And throughout the show, throughout this episode, you see Maddie on her phone with all of the rooms that Jillian went to. Because remember, now she has the printout from the security office of every room that Jillian went into that day to try to find out, what he did with the documents. So that's kind of been going on throughout in this episode. There are a couple scenes with Maddie's sister as well. She gets there. She's really kind of a homebody. She is a baker. She's kind of like Martha Stewart. She goes out. She's trying to get all of their herbs and everything in their garden, and she's baking all day while Maddie's at work. So you will see a scene later on that I'll talk about. I'm going to talk about it at the end because it kind of helps with the case. So in my last video, and the last episode of Matlock, the beginning, they were talking about a class action case against Slammed, which is an energy drink, but it has 5 shots. I guess it's an alcoholic drink, but it has 5 shots in one drink. And it's very dangerous, and they're marketing to young college students, even high schoolers, we find out today. So that's at the beginning of the episode, and then it kind of segues into an adjacent case about sorority girls, and one sorority girl dying because she had slammed in her drink. So of course, Olympia, pro bono that case at last episode because she doesn't want it to hurt her class action suit. I think, and don't quote me on this, I think there's like 200 plaintiffs or something like that. So she's been working on this for, 2 years, trying to get all of these plaintiffs together and trying to get this case against Slammed. So last week's episode was really like, okay, we can't blame the person. We need to blame the company. We can't let her be guilty. We're gonna, represent her pro bono. So I wasn't sure if Slammed was just introduced for last week's case, which it was not. They are coming back to the Slammed case, and that's what this episode is all about. So like I said, they have several clients. The one they're making the face of the lawsuit, his name is Tucker, and he had a scholarship for college. And before he went to college, or even maybe his freshman year, he had slammed and he didn't realize what he was doing. I guess he kind of blacked out and he jumped out of a moving car, and now he's like paralyzed and he can no longer play football, and he was on a scholarship. So, he's kind of the face of the whole class action suit. So they're trying to, get the information against Slammed. And, Olympia is amazing in court. You hear me say how much I love Olympia. But she has a moment with Shay, because remember, Shay is the one that, had the affair with her husband when they were going through that rough time. So she has this kind of conflict, animosity kind of towards Shay. So even though Shay is the go-to person for jury selection, she's a human lie detector test. Elijah, the other lawyer in the law firm who I love, he's amazing too, recommended somebody else for the jury selection. And Olympia does that because she doesn't want to have any awkwardness with Shay. This is an important case. She's been working on it for a long time. She wants to stay focused. So she's like, okay, Elijah recommended. It's like a brother sister. So there's two of them. And since they came recommended, she used them instead of Shay. So there's this moment where Shay kind of has it out with Olympia. Like, hey, is this personal because it's making me look bad? Like, you're not choosing me. And Olympia was like, no, it's an important case. They came recommended. And I think some of it had to do with that. But I think it's because Olympia also needs to stay focused. She spent a lot of her time on this case. So at any rate, they help with jury selection. And apparently Shay's watching in the background. And they allowed a juror didn't do enough research, and he had another account which kind of didn't put him in a good light, and could be problematic, and could sink the whole case according to Shay. So Olympia obviously went to Elijah and was like, look, your guys missed something. So she let them go, and now Shay's on the case. They kind of I guess put their their problems or their issues aside, and now Shay is working with her on the case. But now they have this juror, that if Shay was doing it, would have said, get rid of him. So now they're kind of, trying to figure out how they're going to win the case. Because remember, when you have jury and you have one bad juror, or you have a juror that you think you're not able to win over, they can really spoil the whole jury, because when they go in to deliberate, if he's stuck in his ways or he's convincing other people. So it's very important. Jury selection is very important. You don't want to pick somebody who's going to change everybody's viewpoint if you're trying to sway them a certain way. So Elijah says, I'm sorry, I'll make it up to you. And Olympia's like, yeah, you're going to be my second chair. You're going to help me win this case. That's how you're going to make it up to me. So you always hear me say, I like Elijah. He's such a good guy. So I'm liking that we're seeing more of him. And they're going to try to get the college girl from last week's episode to testify. And they're going through and talking to her to try to get her to testify, and she will only testify if the DA drops the case, because now they want to, I guess from last week's case, the real person who put the slammed in the drink was another college student, so now the DA is going after her. But the mother of the girl that died, Violet, her mother owns like half of New York real estate. She's some big, powerful, woman with a lot of deep pockets. So she just lost her daughter, Violet. Now, they're switching of who they defended last week, because Olympia determined it wasn't her fault. It was, another girl's fault. So she wants somebody to pay. So Olympia's like, Maddie, you're going to have to go to her. She has to drop the charges, or we're not going to be able to get her to testify. And the more they talk to Kennedy, she's like, well, why did you put slammed in, your sorority sister's drink from last episode? And she's like, I had it in high school. We would go to these parties. These promoters would give us parties. They would take our phone, and they kind of got us hooked on it. So she's like, since I've started it from high school, when I went into college, I was just hooked on slammed. So now they're thinking, okay, they're, marketing to minors. They're having these parties and promoting it before it comes out, because they found out when she was high school, it wasn't on the market yet. So they're kind of having these parties to test out the product to high schoolers, which is just, that's just terrible. When I heard that, I cringed. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is an alcoholic beverage, 5 shots and 1 drink, and you're going to be, promoting it and running these test runs on high schoolers, so that when they get to college, they're going to want to drink it. So we definitely want her testimony, because I think that'll really help. But she'll only testify if, she can get no charges against her in the other case. So her name is Linda Reed, and Maddie goes to her and says, look, I know what you're going through. I'm in the same club of losing your child before you pass. It's kind of like a terrible club to be in if you're a parent that loses your child. So I feel like, okay, Maddie's bonding with her, right? But not well enough. She's like, it doesn't matter. I want somebody to blame, and I'm going to blame, this girl. And that's it. I don't want to blame a company. I want somebody to pay. So Maddie kind of understands, but still she doesn't get her to drop the case. So they're not going to have this college girl testify. So like I said, a little hard to help the case because Olympia obviously has information. She's got Tucker, he's going to go up and testify. But they really want this college student if they can. And then, of course, Sarah and Billy are doing their research because if they can get proof of these parties from high schoolers, even though she said they took our phones, they're really trying to find evidence of one of them having these parties. Apparently, the marketing team always paid in cash. So, I mean, they're definitely covering their tracks. They know that testing the product on high schoolers before it comes out of an alcoholic beverage of 5 shots in one is definitely dangerous and toxic. And I cringe when I see that people are preying on high schoolers because that's what she said. Once I had it in high school, I got hooked. So when I went to college, obviously I still drank it. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of trying to find evidence of that. At the same time, they also want her to testify. And then Tucker goes up on the stand, right? Like I say, you always have like a face when you have a class action suit. And he tells a story and it's heart-wrenching, right? He takes this slammed and he passes out and he ends up like jumping, not being, pushed. He literally, of his own free will, jumps out of a moving car and injures himself to where he's in a wheelchair and he can't play football. Or I'm sorry, I don't know if he's in a wheelchair. I know that he's where he can no longer play football. Like he's completely unable to. There goes his scholarship. There goes his future. So definitely a strong testimony, but of course the other side brings up, well, didn't you kind of party when you guys won in high school? And he was like, that was my junior year in high school. But of course he has footage of it and that's damaging to the case. The jury sees that. And the problematic the juror that they were afraid of, that they let in, right, laughs. So I'm like, okay, that's definitely not good because he is not on your side. If he's laughing with the opposite side of what they're showing with Tucker's case, you were kind of worried about that juror anyways, because you know what I mean, the jury selection brother sister team said they were okay. And like I say, once Shay did a deeper research, he's not. Like he's gonna change the jury, so they have to change up their angle and make sure they're appealing to this juror that they should never have let in. So it's definitely heart-wrenching. You're watching Billy and Sarah go through this footage and you're like, okay, come on, they got to find something. Like it can't be a lost cause, right? So they find footage, not a lot, but they find enough to where they can see a couple images at the party. And you can definitely tell that in their hand is a bottle of slammed or a can of the slammed alcoholic beverage. So they try to get it admitted and the judge denies it. So they're like, great, how are we going to get it admitted, right? And then at the same time, Tucker comes to them and says, hey, I want to take a settlement for $100,000. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. So Olympia's like, great, we put you up on the stand. You were the face of this lawsuit, class action suit, and now you want to settle. And to top that off, the judge won't let us, bring in the new evidence of the party showing that they're marketing to minors in high school as a test run before it goes out on the market, which again is just really, I just can't believe our companies are doing that. Yes, definitely get it off the market, right? Now I'm like, come on, Olympia, you can do this. So a couple things are kind of snowballing. Olympia's like, okay, this was supposed to be my big case to win partner. Like, a lot is writing on this, everything's kind of falling apart. So Olympia actually just kind of walks out like, okay, I just need some time by myself. Meanwhile, I kind of mentioned earlier, Maddie's sister is there. They kind of have their spat and their argument when she comes into the library or the office in Maddie's house and sees the board, of her investigation of Jackson and Moore. So they kind of hash it out and kind of have words. And then afterwards, once they both cool down, they kind of apologize. I mean, they are sisters. And they talk about Ellie. So apparently, one time, and Ellie went to rehab several times, right? She was an addict who got clean and then just kept relapsing. So one time she got out of rehab and she told Bitsy, her aunt, like, I'm just going to cool off. So she cooled off for like a week, and Maddie found out, like, what? You let her go for a week with no contact? Where was she? And Bitsy was like, she just told me she needed to cool off. I didn't think it was a big deal not to tell you. But obviously, this was, 20 years ago, and it still bothers Maddie. That's not your child. You should have told me. She just got out of rehab. So, they kind of hashed that out. You kind of felt and heard kind of their history on why there's a little bit of friction between the two. I mean, I feel like with family, there's always friction and conflict, but at least they kind of, it did involve Ellie. And of course, this investigation with Jackson and Moore obviously is all because of Ellie as well. So it all kind of ties in. But she tells them a story. She says, what, are you frustrated with work? And Maddie kind of says, yeah, I have this evidence that is very damaging, but the judge denied it. And I don't know, like, it's really should be out there because it's going to help us win our case and kind of show how sleazy, so to speak, the company was. So Betsy, her sister, tells her this story about somebody in her town was unable to enter a pie contest, and she thought she could get in, but she didn't. And Maddie's like, well, what did she do? She goes, well, she couldn't get into the contest, but she took the pie to the judge's house, and even though she wasn't in the contest, the judge still had an article that she had the best pie in the town. So I mean, she couldn't get into the pie contest, right? But she took her pie elsewhere, and she got a front page article about how amazing her pie was, and she didn't even enter the contest. So Maddie's like, okay. So Bitsy was like, so deliver the pie elsewhere, And so Maddie was like, okay, I can't get the evidence in past the judge, but maybe I can deliver the information elsewhere. So that's why I say earlier, this little conversation of them kind of making up after their argument, Bitsy actually helps with the case because it got Maddie thinking, okay, the judge won't take the evidence, but maybe I can present it to somebody else elsewhere. So she goes back to Lydia Reed, right? Remember, this is the daughter, the mother of the daughter who died in last week's episode with Slammed. So she goes back and she goes, look, I know you still want to press charges against the girl because you lost your daughter. I understand that. Let me just show you this video. The judge won't allow it because, it was less than 24 hours or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know the reason, but there is a legal reason why the judge said no. But Maddie shows it to Miss Reed. And again, she has the power, right? The DA says, hey, I'll drop the charges if you can get her to drop them. So that's kind of why they went to see her. So Maddie was basically showing her the video saying, hey, I want you to know the company that we have this class action suit against. I know you want to go after the girl, but I just want you to know it's not the girl's fault. This company targeted her in high school and did test runs on high school students before Slammed ever hit the market. That was their practice test. So, I mean, we want to get them, right? So I don't blame the girl because she was a victim of this company kind of getting them hooked at such a young age in high school. So, I mean, I definitely think that is very telling, for sure, of like what kind of company this is. So I'm glad she showed it there because, I mean, you can tell Lydia was a little choked up, like seeing how terrible Slammed was. So she agrees to drop the charges. So we're like, okay, she's going to drop the charges. That's good news. Tucker's still pulled out. He wants to take the settlement, so we might have to find somebody else. But at least we know now that she's going to drop the charges. So Kennedy will be able to testify. But since Tucker pulled out, Olympia is still like, okay, that's good news, but I'm still kind of torn. Like, now we have to find somebody else, and it's going to look bad that our person that we already testified, and now we have to find another face for the class action suit. So she goes to, I guess, her old office. And a little side story is Billy and Sarah heard that Olympia's old office, not a big room, but an office, right? All three of them share one, Billy, Sarah, and Maddie. So when they found out a new office was opening, you kind of keep it hush hush. The less people that know about it, the less people that put in applications to get it. So I was like, that's where she's going to go. When they said, I need some time, and she leaves, I'm like, she's going to go to her old office and kind of regroup and refocus. So Maddie says she'll go find Olympia and kind of give her a pep talk, which I also knew was an excuse because she's looking on her phone on what rooms Julian went to that day. So I'm like, yes, perfect escape where she can, investigate and see, okay, because it's all room numbers. You know what I mean? It's not like conference room, bathroom, everything is just 219, 170. So you never really know what anything is. So she's able to go to these rooms. She finds Olympia in her office and is like, hey, we just got to regroup. We can do this. And then Maddie says she has to use the restroom. She goes to the restroom, but it's the same number that was on Julian's list of places that he went. So Maddie was like, wait, what? Like, what was he doing in a woman's bathroom? So she's texting Edwin, has this always been, has like 219 or whatever room number it is, has this always been a woman's bathroom? 10 years ago when they had the, Wellbrock's case. And Edwin and Alfie were like, yes, it's always been a woman's bathroom, and it was on his list. So now Maddie's trying to give Olympia a pep talk. She uses the restroom, finds out, like it kind of throws a rock into everything, a rock into her plans. Like, she's like, wait, I'm going to talk to Olympia and try to cheer her up. But now I just realized she must have used his key card, because what would Julian be doing in a woman's bathroom? So I think she's just kind of conflicted right now. And then, of course, just like they played out at the beginning of the show when Edwin was actually envisioning Julian talking to Shay, once she realized it was a woman's bathroom, then you see the same thing, which was brilliant. Matlock writers, that was great. So she's like, wait, it's a bathroom? And you can kind of see her mind work like, okay, Olympia must have used Julian's key card. It's a woman's bathroom. And then you see Olympia say to Matt, like, well, hey, we were married. Why wouldn't we use the same key card? It probably just got, and I was like, that was brilliant, because that's what Maddie is thinking. And the writers of the show actually had Olympia come out and kind of play in her mind, right? We got to see it play out in her mind. So I thought that was brilliant. But at any rate, she's going back to Olympia's office and was like, hey, are you okay? And so I think that was just really hard. And it kind of ends that way. Like, Olympia asked Maddie if she's okay, because remember, Maddie's here to cheer her up. All she did was go to the bathroom. And I think she's kind of conflicted. So you don't even hear the pep talk she says to Olympia. I'm assuming she's there to like say, we can still win the case. But she's so kind of like, wow, like not knowing what to say, because now she's realizing Olympia could be it now. And remember, a couple episodes ago, she took Olympia's picture off the wall in their house. Like, look, it's either Jillian or Senior. Olympia's my friend. And Edwin's like, you don't have enough proof to cross her off the list. It could still be any of the three. But, Maddie was like, no, she's my friend. I don't think she's capable of doing it. And she purposely took her, her face down. And now you see the next scene, she put it right back up there. So you probably heard in my video a couple weeks ago, like I love the show. I love Kathy Bates, but I'm like, Maddie, you're letting your heart on this one. You don't have enough proof. It's not Olympia. I love Olympia too. I don't want it to be Olympia. I think it was all senior. I kind of like Julian too, so I kind of hope it was all senior. But if I have to pick, I really like Olympia. I think she's a great character. So I understand why she took Olympia down, because she kind of had those one-on-ones with Olympia and really became friends with her. But Edwin was correct. You know, you need to keep it in your mind. We don't have enough against her, or, you know, showing she's not the person who did it. So after the key card incident, you know, she goes home and she puts her picture back up. And then next week, the next preview for next week, they're still working the slammed case, because remember, they didn't really resolve it. Now they have to find another face, since Tucker said he wants to take the settlement. Now they did get, you know, Linda Wee to back off on the charges, so I really am looking forward to the college girl testifying with the, you know, with the evidence, hopefully, or maybe without the video, but maybe they can just talk her through it and try to get some of the damaging information out there to the jury. So I really hope that they can get enough evidence, but it's going to continue next week. And Maddie kind of shows a little frustration, if not animosity, towards Olympia. And Olympia, you know, realizes it, like, whoa, you know, where's this coming from? And like I said, she puts Olympia's picture back on the board as a suspect. So it's definitely going to be interesting, because I know Maddie has to get her feelings in check, because she can't let Olympia on to all the work she's done. But definitely a great episode. If you liked my discussion or have any questions about the episode, definitely leave them below. I'm excited to see what happens next week. So I will see you then. Bye.